Tonight we test out 3 pilots trivia chops to see who takes home $500. Right now, Prop Quiz. Welcome to Prop Quiz, Aviation's game show. I'm your controller, Ethan Berg, and in the pattern tonight, we've got 3 pilots looking to win our $500 cash prize. Aviation enthusiasts around the world know our first contestant as the man with Canada's best sideburns, Mr. FlightChops himself, Steve Thorne. Our next contestant is an airline captain, flight instructor, and volunteer pilot, Mike Jesch. And our third contestant is the author of the book Open Air, How People Like Yourself are Changing the Aviation Industry, Mr. Jeff Jorgenson. Like always, our winner tonight will go home with $500 cash, and second place will win $200. And it looks like they're already ready to go, so let's get started with round 1. Here's our first question. In 1938, Douglas Wrongway Corrigan accidentally flew across the Atlantic Ocean. In what country did he land? Mike.
He landed in Ireland.
He did land in Ireland, but to get there, he did not cross the Atlantic Ocean. He crossed the Atlantic Ocean. Mike, do you know where he was supposed to go?
He was supposed to go to California, I think.
Exactly. I think he dialed up that Irish whiskey VOR instead. Mike Jesch, good evening. You were an airline captain. Of course, we're not going to say which airline, but what got you into that, and do you love it?
I do love it. I just decided when I was about 6 years old, before I watched the Apollo launch, I said, I'm going to be a pilot when I grow up, and I made it happen.
There you go. That's fantastic. If you had to give any advice to anybody today working on their pilot ratings, trying to get up there to airline status, especially right now with everything going on with COVID, what would you say to encourage them?
I would just do it. Go hang out to the airport, talk to people all the time, take every opportunity you can find to learn something new, to meet somebody new. All of that stuff is going to pay off in the end.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And of course, you can also start by knocking out your ground school and going to www.groundschool.com. Shameless plug.
That's a great place to
start. All right.
Well,
Mike Jesch, welcome to Prop Quiz. Let's move on to our second question. What is the standard height of Class B airspace? Mike again.
I'll say 10,000 feet.
10,000 feet. Elaborate on that for me.
10,000 feet above the airport.
No. Yeah. Jeff.
10,000 feet AGL?
No. Steve.
So I guess this is interesting because I think in Canada it's 12.5, but I guess in the States it would be 999, or is it 10,001? But is that what you're looking for? It's not exactly.
I'm afraid it is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 10,000 feet MSL. Mean sea level is the standard height of Class B airspace. It's not AGL or above the airport or anything like that. 10,000 feet MSL. I'm afraid we didn't get any right answers on this question, so we're going to pretend this one never happened and scooch on over to the next one, which is this. Sweep it under the rug, right? In 1941, the Flying Tigers flew this American fighter in China. What was it called? Steve.
I think that's a P-40.
It is a P-40, and you are our resident warbird guru. Steve, Mr. FlightChops yourself, welcome to Prop Quiz. I hear you are a bit of a warbird nut. You're trying to get to fly as many warbirds as you can, and one in particular. What is that?
Well, my goal definitely is to get checked out in a Spitfire. My grandfather flew them. It's interesting to be called a guru because I'm definitely a low time guy. I'm just lucky. I've had experiences and opportunities. So I have worked my way through the Stearman and then to the T6 Harvard. We have a Mark IV Harvard at the museum that I fly with. So I'm very lucky to have access to that airplane. And that is, I guess, the gateway drug to all the warbirds. I've been told by Mustang.
Gateway drug, I like it.
that the
Well,
you can handle the T6, you can fly those. So getting there.
Fantastic. Well, you don't have to have a lot of hours in a plane to still be a guru and still know a lot about it. And the Spitfire is a fantastic plane. It's really cool that you have family who flew one. So, Steve, FlightChops, welcome to Prop Quiz. See if you know this one for me. What is the distance between the datum plane and the CG of some weighted object called? Mike.
That would be the moment.
It is not the moment. Steve.
The arm?
It is the arm.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe
Not to
that
be
one.
confused with the ARM processors that Apple is going to, but the ARM itself, putting Steve in the lead against Mike with 10 points. Jeff not on the board yet, but still with plenty of time here in the first round. What does the acronym WAS stand for? Mike.
That's the Wide Area Augmentation System.
It is a Wide Area Augmentation System. You're absolutely correct. Sorry about that. I had a hiccup there and that delay. Well, our next question comes from an old contestant of ours who can't remember something. He's hoping you can help him out. Take a look.
Hey guys, I'm Brian. With the ADS-B mandate that came out earlier this year, I decided that I would get my plane fitted with an ADS-B out solution called the tail beacon. It's pretty affordable and it works really well with my airplane. But I got a question. With that solution on my airplane, what sort of traffic advisories can I expect when I'm flying around?
Alrighty, that question from Brian Turner tonight remotely. All right, guys, what kind of traffic alerts can he get from his ADS-B out system? Mike.
I think you get TIS-B from the 978 system with that unit.
No. Jeff.
I don't think you'll get any with an ADS-B out.
Absolutely. It's ADS-B out only. There's no ADS-B in. He's not going to get any traffic alerts off of that. And Jeff Jorgenson, there are your first 5 points of tonight's game. Welcome. You are the author of the book Open Air. Tell us, what is that book about?
So generally, it's an introductory guide to aviation I use to promote STEM education to student recruiting tool for flight instructors and to get people excited about aviation.
Fantastic. What if you had to get somebody who's trying to get into aviation, what would you say would be the best section of that book to really excite them about it?
I talk about ground schools, right? I talk about this great online from Gold Seal. I think that'd be a great place to start.
For the record, I did not coerce him into saying that. He said that all on his own. Jeff Jorgenson, thanks for joining us. Here's your next question, man.
You're welcome.
On sectional charts, dashed magenta lines show magnetic variation. What are these lines called? Jeff.
Lines of variance.
No. Mike.
I'm going to go with isogonic lines.
They are isogonic lines, absolutely. And there's 25 points on the board for you. Steve right behind you with 15 and Jeff with 5. So, Mike, you are in the lead. Let's see if you can keep it going. The entrepreneurial path of one man went from Virgin Records to Virgin Airlines to Virgin Galactic. What is his name? Jeff.
Oh, now I'm drawing a blank. Dang it. Sir Richard Branson.
Too late. Mike? You want to steal it
Richard
from
Branson.
him? It is
Yeah,
Sir
I am.
Richard Branson. Yes, indeed. Sorry, Jeff. You're just a little too late there.
That's all right.
You got the answer, but the points are going to go to Mike. Mike, who is on the board with 30 points. Mountain waves may produce extreme turbulence for aircraft, primarily on which side of the mountain? Steve.
The leeward side?
It is the leeward side. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there you are. You're catching up with Mike. Sorry, my thing glitched on me here for a second. Let's move on to our next question. What was the model name of the retractable gear Cessna 172 introduced in 1980? Mike.
That was the Cutlass.
It is the Cutlass. Cutlass or the Cutlass RG for retractable gear. Absolutely. Good answer, indeed. All right, let's keep going. You guys are knocking them out pretty quickly here. We've already got some good numbers on the board. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh flew the Spirit of St. Louis solo across the Atlantic Ocean. Hey, we got Atlantic right this time. What company built the airplane? Jeff.
The Ryan Aircraft Company.
I'm sorry, say that again for me. You broke up.
The Ryan Aircraft Company?
Ryan Aircraft Company or Ryan Aeronautical, not to be confused with Ryan Air, the airline today, although I'm not sure. They may have gone out of business after COVID, but not to be confused with Ryan Air. Well, Jeff, you are now in the double digits along with everybody else. Let's see if you catch up. We've seen a couple other contestants in recent games really come back from the underdog, so you still got plenty of time. But I want you to think about this one. You are level, flying on a heading of 280 degrees, and you're accelerating. What erroneous action will the magnetic compass show? Mike.
It'll show a turn to the north.
It is a turn to the north, absolutely. I like saying absolutely. I don't know why, but you guys are going to get used to it because I'm going to say it for every question. So, let's take a look at our next absolute question. This massive airplane, originally designed for NASA by Aerospace Lines, is generally known to the public as what? Jeff.
Beluga?
No. It's not the Beluga.
The Guppy, the Flying Guppy.
We'll give it to you. It's the Super Guppy. The Super Guppy is what we were looking for. But we'll go ahead and give it to you. You are now tied with Steve for 25 points, but Mike is still doubling your scores with 50. You guys could team up and knock Mike down. Add your two scores together. You get 50.
That's what my wife does.
Which Russian airline is both the oldest and the largest? Mike.
That would be Aeroflot.
It is Aeroflot. They began operations all the way back in 1923. 1923. Well, Mike, you've got a good lead as we go into our last question of round one. In a Boeing 727, how many stripes were on the flight engineer's epaulets? Mike again.
If he was a full-time professional engineer, he'd have two stripes on the epaulets.
2 is correct. Good answer, and that brings you up to 70 points as we enter the end of round one. 15 questions, 15 to go. Mike's in the lead with 70 points. We'll be right back.
For many pilots, airspaces remain a confusing concept. These are 3D volumes of air that you have to interpret by looking at a flat sectional chart. It can be a real challenge. You need to master them, and the FAA definitely puts heavy emphasis on them for the written test. But no worries, Gold Seal makes airspaces easy to understand using stunning three-dimensional graphics. And these are the exact ones that you'll see on your knowledge test. You don't have to imagine them. Gold Seal shows them to you in awesome real-world perspective. Gold Seal is the premier online ground school. We've been doing it longer than anyone else. Come see for yourself with a free test drive at groundschool.com.
Welcome back to Prop Quiz. Before the break, Mike dominated round one with 70 points, leaving Jeff and Steve tied for 25 as a cat walked across our keyboard, making the music start over, going into the ad break there. Not sure what's going on. My teleprompter's quit on me, so we're just going to keep going on with round two. Remember, with round two, you guys can play along on our website at onlinegroundschool.com/propquiz. Just enter your name in the chat box to join the game. Again, that's onlinegroundschool.com patreon.com/PropQuiz. So gentlemen, let's keep this game going. Here is your first question in round 2. During World War II, this Stearman trainer built by Boeing helped thousands of pilots earn their wings. What was it? A, the BT-13, B, the AT-10, C, the PT-19, or D, the PT-17? Alrighty, we are going to start, I think, with Steve in our first reveal of round 2. Steve, you said C.
I know what it is.
Not.
I was racing to press the button because I thought it was a voice answer. I was like, going to hit it as fast as I can.
No, but I'll give you the chance to recover real quick. What does PT stand for?
I don't know about that.
No, okay, all right. Mike, you answered A. That is also not the right answer, but do you know what PT stands for?
Stands for primary trainer.
It is primary trainer, absolutely, but still no points for you. Sorry. Jeff, you said D, the PT-17. You are correct. There are 5 points to you, good sir. You are now pulling out ahead of Steve. We got Mike on the board with 70 points, Jeff with 30, and Steve with 25. Which of the following approach types is considered a precision approach? A, an LNAV or VNAV, B, an ILS, C, localizer, or D, LPV? Steve, we're going to start with you again. You are the first person to answer this question. You said B, the ILS, and you answered it correctly. First and correct, so there's 10 points for you, and now you and Jeff are battling it out, but at the moment, you're ahead. Mike, you said B, the ILS, or Instrument Landing System as well. You are correct. And Jeff is well established as well. He got B, the ILS. Absolutely correct, guys. Across the board, all three of you. Great job. Let's see if you can mimic that again. Where is the oldest continually operating airport in the United States located? A, Dayton, Ohio. B, Cape Canaveral, Florida. C, Pensacola, Florida. Or D, College Park, Maryland? Man, I am glad I studied my state abbreviations because I almost got one of those wrong there. I won't say which one. Steve, you said A, and it is not Dayton, Ohio. Let's try Mike. Mike, what did you say? You said D, College Park, Maryland, which is the correct answer. And lastly, Jeff. Jeff also said Dayton, Ohio, which it is not, I'm afraid. But Mike is, not only did he get that one right, he is still definitely in the lead, but Jeff and Steve, you guys are tied. I want to see you guys battle this out. This is going to be fun. I think it's going to end up being a good thing that we're separated by COVID and doing this over the internet. Don't have to separate you guys. All right, this unusual looking twin exhibits a canard design. What is the airplane called? A, a Velocity TXL, B, a Beechcraft Starship, C, a North American Lightning, or D, a Piaggio P180? Looking at my preview monitor, I realize I've done half the show tilted like this. So I'm going to try and stand up straight, but I make no promises. Steve, you said D, the Piaggio P180. You are correct. The Piaggio P180 Avanti. Let's try Jeff, who said B. No, it was not the Beechcraft Starship. Next, we're going to look at Mike, who said D as well, Piaggio P180 Avanti. You are correct. The North American Lightning, for the record, doesn't exist. Mixed a couple of different names there together, but the North
Only
American
in California
Lightning
to start the fires.
Yeah, exactly, but it doesn't start the thing. And Mike, I know you're out west. How are you doing? Are you staying safe out there?
Thankfully, I'm a little ways away from the fire, but the smoke does make it a little bit tough to go for my morning run every day right now.
Yeah, I'll bet. And Steve, I think I heard you say you guys are even getting some of the smoke all the way up in Toronto?
Yep, it's all the way across the whole country. It's crazy.
Good grief.
Wow.
That's insane. Well, I hope you all stay safe, especially Mike, you out there out west. Let's keep going, though. What was the designation of Cessna's first tricycle gear single-engine airplane? A, the C-150, B, the 172, C, the C-170, or D, the C-152? What was the designation of Cessna's first tricycle gear single-engine plane? Steve, you said A. It was not. No, sir. Now let's take a look at Mike, who said B, Cessna 172 Skyhawk. You are correct. And lastly, Jeff said A as well. I'm sorry, it is not. It was the Cessna 172, which took its first flight on June 12th, 1955. And they're still flown every single day as one of the biggest, most popular, or not biggest by size, but one of the most popular trainers in the world. Which electronic display? Yep, absolutely. Well, there I am saying absolutely again. I can hear the guys at the back going, stop saying that! Which electronic display combines altimeter, attitude indicator, and vertical speed indicator? A, a multifunction display, B, a primary flight display, C, an integrated systems display, or D, a glass panel display? Alrighty, I think everybody's flown a glass cockpit at this point, so I'm hoping you guys are all going to knock this one out of the park. Steve, you said B, a primary flight display, or PFD, and you are right. Absolutely correct. Mike, you said B, primary flight display as well. Come on, Jeff, keep it going. Bring us home. You said B, PFD as well. Everyone give yourselves a pat on the back. You all got that one correct. If we take a look at our scoreboard, Mike is still in the lead with 95 points. Steve has 55, and Jeff has 40. Okay, we are punching through these. In the 1990 Gulf War, a new stealthy night fighter made its battlefield debut. What was its designation? A, the F-111, B, the F-22, C, the F-35, or D, the F-117? Alrighty, let's start our reveal with Steve again. Steve, you said D, the F-117. That is the correct answer. I believe that's the Nighthawk, isn't it? The F-117 Nighthawk?
I'm not sure what it's called. I just knew it was
not the 35, but the 22. Well, let's see if our next contestant knows that. It is, and that's Jeff, who said D, the F-117. And lastly, let's go over to Mike, who said D, F-117 as well. Interesting fact. Interesting fact first. Mike is the first contestant in tonight's game to reach 100 points. There's a special little jingle there in our first three-digit score in tonight's game. Interesting fact about the F-111. Over in Australia, in Brisbane, they used to have a party, a celebration every year along the Brisbane River. And they don't do it anymore, but an F-111 used to dump some fuel over the river and then light its afterburners and make this huge fire show in the sky as it ignited that fuel that it had dumped. It was really quite cool. Well, this next question is also pretty cool. Which pilot is credited with flying the first aircraft to reach the South Pole? A, John Wayne Gacy, B, Richard Byrd, C, Wilfred Brimley, or D, Billy Mitchell? Alrighty, we are going to start with Mike this time, who answered first. He said B, Richard Byrd, and he is absolutely correct. At 110 points now. Next, Steve said D. It was not Billy Mitchell. He was the general who advocated for the U.S. to have an independent Air Force. And then Jeff said C. Was not C either. It also definitely was not a John Wayne Gacy. He was a serial killer in the 1970s, better known as Patches the Clown. So he was not him. Not him. Okay, all right, let's keep going. Let's see if we have any more serial killer questions. Dun, dun, dun. On a GPS on a GPS WAS approach with vertical guidance, the vertical guidance reference is called the what? A, the glide path, B, the glide slope, C, the approach path, or D, the approach slope? Alrighty, what is the vertical guidance reference called in this case? Steve, you said B. It is not the glide slope. Next, we train over to Mike, who said A, the glide path, and he's right, but he only gets 5 points since Steve answered first, even though he got it wrong. And then Jeff said C. It is not C either. It was the glide path. Glide slope, I think, is when it comes to visual flying, but on a GPS Watson instrument approach, it's called the glide path, and you follow the little indicator down. We're going to keep it going here. We are getting ready to start winding down here. We punched through a lot of questions already. A game always goes faster than it seems like it will. This U.S. fighter was flown heavily by the Russians in World War II. What was it called? A, the Airacobra, B, the Hurricane, C, the Valiant, or D, the Hellcat? Alrighty, so which U.S. fighter was flown heavily by the Russians? Imagine that happening today. But in World War II, it did happen. Mike, you said that it is A, the Airacobra. You are absolutely right. Good answer. Next, we're going to try Steve, who said C. It's not C. No, and then Jeff, you said C as well. Your minds are thinking alike, but I'm afraid they aren't correct in this case. It was A, the P-39 Airacobra. Not Aerocobra, but Airacobra. On the CTAF, you hear a pilot report midfield left downwind for runway 32. Where is he in relation to the airport? A, east, B, southwest, C, northeast, or D, north? Alrighty, let's start with Mike. Mike, you said B, southwest. You're correct. You are right. And now let's try Steve. Steve, who I think got a little bit turned around, man. I'm sorry, but no. You said A, and that's not it. It's southwest, like the airline. And we did not get an answer from Jeff on that question. I think he was too busy trying to find his compass, figure out which direction runway 32 is facing. Well, Jeff, we're going to give you another try here. Try this next question. What was the designation of the experimental aircraft in which Chuck Yeager first went supersonic in 1947? A, the X-2, B, the X-1, C, the X-7, or D, the X-1A? Mike, let's start with you. You said B, the X-1. You're right. The Bell X-1 is the correct answer. You're up to 145 points and a sweeping lead against your competition tonight. Steve, you said B as well, which is correct. You're up to 70 points now. And Jeff, you said A.
Oh, no. Pressure's on.
I'm sorry. It is not. It is not. All right, let's keep going. We've got 3 questions left. This famous airshow performer retired, sort of, in 2018. Who is he? A, Steve Hinton, B, Roger Waters, C, Michael Goulian, or D, Sean Tucker? All righty, Jeff. You may have missed one question, but
Roger
you're
Waters.
up here now. First one answered. This one you answered D, correct. He is Sean Tucker. Now let's try, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Steve, you said D, Sean Tucker as well. You are right. 75 points. And lastly, Mr. Jesch, you said D, Sean Tucker as well. And for those of you who don't know, Roger Waters, not him. He was the bass player for Pink Floyd. Interestingly enough, 2 other members of Pink Floyd were avid pilots, but not Roger. Not quite. Okay, guys, we've only got a couple of questions left. We're winding down now as we hit the half-hour mark in our show. This 747 captain was also the lead singer for another famous rock band. What is the name of the band? A, Captain and Tennille, B, Metallica, C, AC/DC, or D, Iron Maiden? Alrighty, Jeff, you're up there first again, and you said D, Iron Maiden. You are right, up to 65 points.
Yeah.
Next, let's take a look over at, Steve, we'll go with you again. You said D, Iron Maiden as well. And lastly, Mike Jesch, you said D, sir, Iron Maiden. You just got to think for a second how freaking badass of a band you've got to be to have your own 747. That's pretty awesome.
Pretty cool.
And Captain and Tennille, for the record, also was a sappy pop duo. They were not a rock band. All right, guys, here's our last question tonight. Which feature is associated with the tropopause? A, substantial turbulence. B, absence of wind and turbulence. C, upper limit of cloud formation. Or D, abrupt change in lapse rate. Mike, you answered first, and you are going to get to be revealed first for our last question. You said D, an abrupt change in lapse rate, and you are right, bringing it up to 165 points. Steve, you said D, abrupt change in lapse rate as well, and you were right, bringing you up to 85 points. And lastly, Jeff Jorgenson, you said B. No, I'm sorry. Man, I was so hoping that we were going to be able to wipe the board for the last question, but not, man. Sorry about that, Jeff, but that is the final score of tonight's game. Mike Jesch is the winner tonight with 165 points. Mike, you're going home with our $500 cash prize. Congratulations, man. Good job. I know you're getting the willies before the show. How do you feel now?
I got rid of my willies, I think. Send me in for another round.
We're going to next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You'll be back to defend your title against two more pilots. And Steve FlightChops Thorne, thank you so much for joining us. 85 points is your final score, and you did a good job as well. We had some tougher questions in some previous episodes. Less ground school questions and more real trivia questions this time. But you're not going home empty-handed. You're going home with your $200 second place cash prize, which, what does that convert to in Canadian dollars? Because that's going to change by the time it gets to you. Hey, you get a little bit of a leg up. Well, that is fantastic. Yeah. Mike, Jeff, Steve, thank you guys so much for joining us. That is our time for tonight's game. Congratulations again to Mike, Jesch, and good luck next week for your next show. Steve and Jeff, thanks so much for playing. We'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm Ethan Berg. Thanks for watching. Good night.